Growing up, Daniel had always heard the legends of Silver Hollow, a village that was said to lie at the bottom of a lake on the outskirts of his hometown. People whispered that Silver Hollow had been abandoned and flooded after a series of mysterious events nearly a century ago. Local folklore claimed that the village was cursed, and on certain nights, lights could be seen flickering beneath the water, as though the village still breathed below the surface. Now an archaeology student, Daniel couldn't shake the lure of the legend. During his break from university, he decided to spend his summer investigating Silver Hollow. With a map, a diving kit, and a few old documents that hinted at the village's existence, he set up a small campsite by the lake's edge. On his first night, Daniel sat by the fire, looking out over the water. The lake was perfectly still, reflecting the moonlight like a mirror. As he stared, he thought he saw something, a faint glow deep beneath the surface, like the flickering of a distant lantern. His heart raced, and he knew he had to dive down and see for himself. The next morning, with the sun casting golden rays across the lake, Daniel prepared for his dive. His heart pounded with excitement and a touch of fear as he slipped into the cold, clear water. He descended slowly, his flashlight cutting through the murky depths. Fish darted around him, and the light grew dimmer as he went deeper. Then, just as he was beginning to doubt the stories, he saw it. The outline of a building, its stone walls covered in algae, and windows dark and empty. His breath caught as he realized he was looking at the remains of Silver Hollow. He swam closer, passing by what appeared to be the village square, with scattered remnants of a fountain and cobblestone paths. The village was eerily preserved, as if waiting for someone to uncover its secrets. He explored cautiously, marveling at the structures that lay untouched by time. His flashlight illuminated old shop signs, a broken cart, and finally, the remains of a small chapel with a tall, crumbling steeple. As he neared the chapel, he felt a strange chill, despite the water's cold. The air seemed to thicken, and he noticed something odd, a faint humming sound, almost like chanting, echoing around him. He turned, shining his flashlight into the shadows, but saw nothing. Just as he was about to leave, he spotted something on the chapel's door, a carving, faint but visible, of a symbol he had never seen before. He took out his waterproof camera, capturing the image, then swam back to the surface, feeling both exhilarated and unsettled. Back on shore, Daniel examined the symbol, searching through his notes for any references. He found a vague mention in an old book on folklore, an emblem associated with protection and binding, used in rituals to seal away something dangerous. The more he researched, the more he became convinced that Silver Hollow hadn't simply been flooded. It had been buried deliberately, as though the villagers had wanted to trap something within the depths. That night, as he sat by the fire, he saw the lights again. This time, they were clearer, flickering like lanterns, moving slowly as if following the paths he had walked underwater. Daniel's heart pounded. The legends had said the village came to life on certain nights, and he was witnessing it firsthand. Driven by a mixture of fear and curiosity, he decided to dive again the next morning, determined to uncover the truth. Before dawn, he geared up and slipped into the lake, descending quickly to the village below. This time, he made his way straight to the chapel, the place that had felt the most alive. Inside the chapel, he found something new, a faint outline of footprints in the silt on the floor, as though someone or something had walked there recently. He shone his light around, feeling the weight of the water pressing down on him. In the silence, he heard it again, the low, haunting hum that seemed to seep from the walls. He followed the sound, tracing it to a small, hidden chamber at the back of the chapel. Inside, he found a stone altar, covered in carvings of the same protective symbol he had seen outside. But there was something else, a figure, faint and ghostly, standing by the altar, its eyes fixed on him. Daniel's heart nearly stopped. The figure seemed to be watching him, its form shifting like smoke in the water. He felt an overwhelming urge to leave, but something held him in place, as though the village itself wanted him to witness its story. The figure raised a hand, pointing to the altar. There, Daniel saw a stone tablet, covered in writing he didn't recognize. He approached, drawn by an invisible force, and placed his hand on the tablet. Images flooded his mind. Visions of villagers fleeing in terror, of dark shadows spreading through the streets, and finally, of a ritual to seal away whatever horror had befallen Silver Hollow. He realized the figure was one of the villagers, trapped by the ritual, bound to protect the village's secrets even in death. With a shudder, Daniel understood why the village had been hidden beneath the lake. It wasn't to preserve history. It was to imprison something that should never be disturbed. Feeling the weight of the village's sorrow, Daniel removed his hand from the tablet. The figure nodded once, as if in gratitude, and began to fade. The humming ceased, replaced by an eerie silence. Daniel swam to the surface, his heart heavy with the knowledge of what he had uncovered. As he looked back at the lake, he saw the faint lights flicker once more, then disappear, leaving the water still and silent. He knew he would never return to Silver Hollow, but he also knew he would never forget the village and the secrets it had whispered to him from beneath the depths.